With cloning, you're recreating the same animal. So in a few years from now, we'll see the same animal with the same DNA out there. Who knows?
Closer Look with Michael Friscolanti. I'm Scott Sexsmith. Closer Look at villagemedia.ca, and of course our website is closerlookpodcast.ca. You and I have covered a plethora of topics on this program.
Yes.
Never in a million years would I have had on my bingo card asking you the question, how do you like your cloned steak?
Yeah. It's a great question.
Crazy.
I don't think I like it at all, but apparently I wouldn't know the difference, and it wouldn't matter. That's what we're going to find out. But it's been in the headlines lately about Health Canada changing some rules, and the headlines say one thing, but there's always a lot of nitty gritty in these rule changes when Health Canada and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency sort of change the rules. It all centers around the concept of novel foods, but basically, if I have it right, the offspring of cloned animals are going to be allowed into the food chain, the food system. So you're going to be able to go to the grocery store and buy a steak that was the child of or offspring of a cloned cow.
See, you've already lost. I shouldn't have to ask that number of questions to get to a steak or a burger.
I know. But then apparently it's been going on in the United States for almost 2 decades, and people don't know. And that's part of the funny story is that the Health Canada put out this Health Canada news broke in Canada, and social media users in the United States were horrified to realize that in their country that's been doing it for so long that they've unknowingly bought these products. So we reached out to Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, who's a leading food expert and is a friend of the show, has come on the show in the past. Yeah. He's the director of the Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University. And this is the guy that can walk us through all the nitty-gritty details of the rule change, but also give us his honest thoughts on what he thinks. And I can't wait till we ask him how he likes his clone steak. So let's see what Dr. Charlebois has to say.
Cloned meat. In case you haven't noticed, those two words have made quite a lot of juicy headlines over the past few days. Simply put, meat from the offspring of cloned animals could soon be allowed to enter the Canadian food supply, raising plenty of questions about health and safety and a whole lot more. Here to help us understand what's really happening is Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, director of the Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University. Doctor, good to see you again. We appreciate your time tonight.
My pleasure. Enjoyed our last chat and looking forward to this one as well.
All right. Let's get started. Right off the bat, can we make one thing clear? When we hear the term cloned meat, we're not talking about meat grown in a lab, correct?
That's right. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised by the confusion. They're very different things. So lab-grown meat, cellular agriculture, essentially is the act of taking a cell from a live animal and multiply that cell in a bioreactor by feeding it with amino acids and things like that. So you basically don't have to harvest anything really. You just multiply cells in a lab, and that's why they call it lab-grown meat. Cloning is very different. The intent is to recreate the same exact animal by taking the DNA of an animal, the animal you want, and insert that DNA into an egg and then impregnate a female, essentially, whether it's hog or cattle. And so that's basically it. So the intent here is to optimize the genetic pool of a herd so you can actually produce the perfect fillet, the perfect steak, the marbling, ribs, everything. So that's really why you would want to clone an animal.
So how widespread is animal cloning in Canada? Are we talking thousands of animals a year?
Well, we don't know, actually. We have no idea. Now, of course, the conventional way of doing things out there is by artificial insemination. And so you basically shop around for the perfect semen, and you match that semen with a female, hoping to get the best genetic outcome, essentially. And so with cloning, we don't know exactly how extensive that practice is in the real world. But of course, Health Canada has looked into the matter, has been studying the matter for a while, has looked at the literature, consulted, I believe, about 1,200 people. And they basically are about to consider, or maybe they've considered already, that cloning won't be a novel method or won't lead to novel foods. So legalizing basically the sale of meat products coming from offsprings of a clone animal. And of course, the other thing that we did learn from this process is that it won't be labeled either. If it's not novel in Canada, basically, if it's not novel, then you don't have to label it.
That's right. So just so we're clear, this isn't in the food supply yet. It's even if it was labeled before, it wasn't allowed yet.
Well,
see, this is why so many people have questions. Yeah.
To be honest with you, by the time we got to this interview, I thought that Health Canada would at least react. I mean, it's just everywhere on social media, and so what I've been told this afternoon that Health Canada is preparing a statement.
Okay.
Because the reason why I actually outed Health Canada a few weeks ago is that I actually learned that Health Canada had no intention to release anything. It was just going ahead with it, and that's it. No labeling, no press releases, nothing. So it's a little difficult for me to comment on anything in terms of what's been happening out there in the field.
And that's crazy. So really, they were just going to allow all of a sudden you be shopping at a grocery store and maybe pick up a steak, and it may or may not be the offspring of a cloned animal, and nobody would know. That's essentially what was going to happen.
That's right. So the argument is that, well, it doesn't represent any more risks, which is actually true. I mean, if you actually give you guys a conventional piece of meat and a clone meat piece, you wouldn't be able to notice the difference between the two. To be honest, it'd be the same piece of meat basically. But in 2025, that's not really the argument here. The argument is about transparency. But the other issue that I think is much more concerning for industry is that, I mean, if your intent is to optimize your genetic practices within the livestock industry, you will potentially save some money, and you basically make the entire industry much more effective. Now, how can consumers benefit from that enhanced effectiveness without labels? So in other words, let's say, for example, you do see clone meat products out there at the meat counter, and you know that really the industry is doing this to save money. As a consumer, wouldn't you expect that piece of meat to be, well, cheaper?
That's a great point. And that's one of our questions. I'm going to skip to that. Will this, if this does become more mainstream and they do this, does that mean our grocery bills are going to go down and we're going to be able to buy a roast for a cheaper price?
You're funny. You're very funny. That's the point of labeling. So you do have the food safety issue and perceptions, and you want to educate the public and allow people to befriend the technology. I have no problem with cloning. The science is pretty clear. The challenge that a lot of people feel uneasy about cloning. I mean, they've heard about Dolly and they've heard all sorts of things. They would want to know where their food is coming from. But the biggest challenge to me is from a socioeconomic perspective. With all of these technological advances that we've seen in the food industry, allowing the food industry to produce food and lower costs, without labeling, it's incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to allow consumers to benefit from all of these technological advances over the years. And I'm thinking about genetic engineering in plants, for example, genetically modified salmon, and of course, now with cloning.
You mentioned the safety and the science behind it all. Is there anything that consumers should be worried about?
Well, I mean, if you're an animal welfare activist, or if animal welfare is really something that you absolutely care about, you'd be concerned about cloning, because cloning is not, well, perfect. There's some trial and error. I mean, you don't always succeed in labs. If you know a little bit about cloning, you'll know that sometimes they are failures, and so So embryos don't develop, and you have malformations of animals and things like that. But and in livestock industry, cloning is about getting to the perfect animal. And the other concerns around, for biologists, for example, the purists out there thinking, well, if we're recreating, the same animal over and over again, it's like monoculture in livestock, really, with no genetic diversity. And that's why artificial insemination is accepted in science, because, well, you're kind of forcing nature to do its thing by selecting. It's like an arranged marriage, if you will. That's what artificial insemination is. With cloning, you're recreating the same animal. So in a few years from now, we'll see the same animal with the same DNA out there. Who knows?
It's fascinating. I think we go down so many rabbits. This is a fascinating conversation. Doctor, can I ask you, that there are different rules in different countries. I think this has been around in the United States for a long time, but not in Europe. Is that correct?
That's right. So in New Zealand, Australia, it's allowed in the US as well. You see, in Europe, they have a different way to assess risks. So in Canada and the US, we look at the outcome. So the focus is on the outcome. Does the product look is the same as the conventional product? And if it's the same, then it's not considered as novel. In Europe, they look at the process. And obviously cloning is very different than artificial insemination or other processes as well. So that's why they've been way more reluctant around genetic engineering in general.
What's been fascinating is, since you have come out to talk about this issue and made it public, there's been quite the reaction on social media, like you talked about, and some of it from the United States, where people were shocked to discover that this had been a rule for so long there.
For so long, yeah, absolutely. I honestly, I'm surprised by two things. On the one side, I am surprised that the regulator, Health Canada, is not doing anything and any risk communication whatsoever, which is really, well, it's not really surprising because they're repeating the same mistake, but I'm disappointed because it is 2025 and consumer trust is a big deal. So you want to be forthcoming, you want to inform the public, and frankly, cloning is scary for a lot of people. You want to at least invite consumers to befriend the technology in some way instead of allowing some NGOs to come in and basically control the narrative and scare everyone. My intent is not to scare anybody. The science is pretty clear. This is about respect towards the consumer in the end. That's really what it's all about. And of course, the other surprise that I'm seeing is the reaction. I didn't know so many people were concerned about this. And after a while, you kind of realize, I guess people should be concerned about this, because it's not just cloning, it's a bunch of other issues that really we haven't seen the government being forthcoming about, issues that really impact how we produce food in Canada.
Shocking, the government not being forthcoming.
Weird.
We don't usually see that. Is Health Canada a little angry at you, Doctor? Are you hearing from the back channels that they're a little upset? You're kind of sounding the alarm here?
They're always upset, the last time they were upset with me is when I outed them with the food guide. If you remember 6 years ago, I basically told the entire country that they never priced out the food guide versus the old one. So because I did ask the question to Health Canada, do you know if this new food guide, this plant-based food guide, is going to cost Canadians more to feed themselves versus the old one? They never actually bothered to study that, which we did eventually, but they didn't like that. No,
Doctor, we've seen the term mutant meat. Is that a fair description? If you're talking about meat at the meat counter, it wouldn't be mutant, but the process may lead to some mutant things. That's the thing. That's the thing about cloning. It's not perfect. You will fail once in a while. And so, but once you actually end up with an animal, you end up with the ideal animal for the food chain. That's the thing. So for example, if you're realizing that this one
beast, one animal with certain DNA can resist many different diseases, for example. Okay, well, you would want that animal to be replicated to reduce your costs for vaccines and antibiotics and things like that, right? And so that's why I think the industry needs to be honest with Canadians in terms of why we're doing this, why we're allowed. Because right now the industry's all of what the industry is saying is that, oh, well, cloning is expensive. And we're not going to comment on anything. Well, first of all, yes, cloning is expensive, but over time, the industry is likely to save here. Come on, let's be honest. Okay, that's why they're after this. And two, don't wish. You shouldn't be wishing that the story will disappear. This is not how things should work in 2025. You should be in front of this. You should have been in front of it instead of allowing some academic out of Dal to out you.
Yes, yeah.
You know?
We've always believed that's why we love having these kind of conversations on the podcast. Let's talk about the issue. Let's figure out what all the sides are.
Exactly.
And let people know, that educate people. That's what I think. You know, you've talked about how the science is pretty clear that this meat is safe, that there's not a problem. So you yourself would be okay with a cloned steak? That's all right with you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would eat one tomorrow for sure.
Well, if only we were in the same city.
Honestly, and like I said, I mean, the labeling issue to me is very much about a socioeconomic issue. Okay, let the consumer decide, and once you start doing that, you're going to see that the meat counter is going to become way more heterogeneous than it is now. Right now, it's pork, beef, and chicken, and they protect their terrain like there's no tomorrow. As soon as you start, the reason why we're talking about this, it's because of a organic pork producer that came to me with this information.
Yes.
You know why he cares? You know why he's concerned? Because he's concerned that a lot of people will say, you know what? If I have access to cloned pork and I don't know it, I'm going to ban pork. That's the problem here, okay? But if you clarify rules at the meat counter at retail and let consumers decide what they can pick and what they don't want to pick, then at some point it becomes easier for the industry to understand what has market currency and what doesn't, and what needs to be addressed and what doesn't. And right now, there is zero effort to achieve that social contract between the industry and the consumer. And it's shameful.
That's fascinating. Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah. Thank you, Doctor, for that.
Doctor, before we let you go tonight, anything that we didn't cover on meat cloning that perhaps we should have?
Well, I mean, like I said, we're repeating the same mistake over and over and over again. So hopefully at some point, Health Canada will get the message and will. Now, keep in mind, they'll probably say, well, we actually had some public discussions about this. There were events in 2024 about this to consult with the public. But nobody went. Nobody bothered. And this is the time to actually talk about this and the implications, because they actually entitle certain sessions in a way that it was so sciencey, it was so scientific that nobody really understood what was going on here. And so you want to use layman. So I kind of explained to you guys what cloning is, what lab grown is. I mean, in 2 minutes, it's not hard, guys. It's not hard to explain to people what's going on here. So Health Canada can do that.
Yeah, I feel like we would have probably caught our attention if we had seen some public consultation announcements to talk about cloned meat. I feel like
well, the seminar was this long. I mean, the title of the seminar was this long, and frankly, I don't think people showed up or bothered. And maybe some interest groups actually went and expressed their concerns. But Health Canada said, well, these are interest groups. They're extremists. Yes. Well, look at social media today.
Absolutely. Well, if we're ever in the same city, we owe you a steak, Doctor, cloned or not. We'll definitely have to have dinner.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. There he is, the food professor from Dalhousie University, Dr. Sylvain Charlebois. Doctor, always good to see you. We appreciate your time tonight.
You take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Okay, line of the night has to go to Derek.
It always does.
It always does, really. Let's be honest. We're sitting here before Dr. Charlebois comes on, and Derek says, I've seen a few nice steaks in my day that I'd like to clone.
It's true, though.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
So you had that perfect steak. Like, I would take 20 of those.
It would be interesting if you put, cloned steak, uncloned? Is that?
Non-cloned?
Non-cloned? Normal? I don't even know what to call it. But you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's like the Pepsi challenge.
Yeah.
Can you tell the difference?
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. And I think what he said is key is that it's not about, he said, it's safe. The science is pretty clear. But it's people's perceptions.
Of course.
And there would be a good chunk of people that'd be like, no way, I'm not going to eat cloned meat.
No.
And there'd be a whole bunch of people who say, well, if it's $1 cheaper, that sirloin, yeah, I'm definitely going to buy that. Or if it's the same, they're not going to care. They want to see the quality of that steak. It's about letting people know the truth. This is what the situation is. People are smart. They'll make their own decisions.
Of course they are. But then, another great point he brings up, why the reluctance on the part of the government to not be straightforward, come out.
Yeah, to come out and talk about that. So
makes you wonder.
Health Canada is apparently working on a big statement. It's got to go through lots of layers of bureaucracy before it comes out, I'm sure.
You think?
Got to have a few lunches.
Yeah. Some cloned lunches.
Some cloned corned beef.
Oh, my God.
Great episode.
It was. Okay, closer look at villagemedia.ca. What do you think? Would you eat cloned meat?
And would you send us some?
We're not above that. We're not above free stuff. Mm-hmm. Closer look at villagemedia.ca. Closerlookpodcast.ca is the website. Check it out. We'd love for you to do that. Tonight's show produced, as always, by Derek Turner. For Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Thanks for watching tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7, right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.